School textbooks tell you Rome fell because of barbarian invasions, Germanic tribes pouring over the borders, legions spread too thin, emperors too corrupt, bread and circuses. The coins tell a different story. Under Augustus, the Roman denarius contained 97% pure silver. By 268 CE, the same coin contained 4% silver. The rest was bronze covered in a thin silver wash. In 250 years, Rome's rulers extracted 93% of the value from their own currency. They did it gradually, they did it deliberately, and they did it believing they had found a way to fund an empire without limits. They hadn't found a loophole, they had built a trap. The barbarians who crossed the Rhine in 406 CE didn't destroy Rome. They walked into a carcass. The monetary system had already hollowed out the legions, shattered long-distance trade, collapsed tax collection, and forced the economy back to barter. The invasion was an autopsy, not a murder. This wasn't bad luck. This wasn't inevitable decline. This was engineered destruction created by emperors who needed to pay soldiers and discovered they could shrink the silver and coins faster than soldiers could notice. It worked for decades. Then it worked less. Then it stopped working entirely. By the time anyone understood the full scope of the problem, the machinery of empire no longer functioned. The debasement created bottlenecks everywhere. Soldiers demanded payment in goods because coins bought nothing. Merchants stopped shipping grain across the Mediterranean because the money they received was worthless by the time they spent it. Tax collectors demanded payment in kind because denarii had become accounting fictions. The infrastructure of extraction stopped extracting. The flow of resources reversed. The center starved while the periphery fragmented. Rome didn't fall. Rome went bankrupt. Welcome to Noob Historian. Behind every headline in your history book, there's a ledger they kept hidden. We open it. Here's why this matters to you right now. The U.S. Federal Reserve expanded its balance sheet from $900 billion in 2008 to $9 trillion by 2022, a tenfold increase in 14 years. Your groceries cost more today than they did in 2020. Your rent absorbs more of your paycheck. Your savings buy less each year. When critics call this money printing, defenders point to differences between modern fiat currency and ancient commodity money. They are correct about the technical differences. They are wrong about the fundamental pattern. Rome's emperors learned the same lesson now being tested again. Monetary expansion works until it does not. The transition from working to catastrophe happens faster than anyone expects. And by the time the population understands what happened to their money, the damage is irreversible. The Roman case provides the most documented monetary collapse in pre-modern history. Thousands of coins have been scientifically analyzed. Tax records from Egyptian papyri show price increases in real time. Government inscriptions admit the inflation they caused. Contemporary historians recorded the chaos. This is not speculation. This is evidence. Augustus built the monetary system his successors would destroy. When he consolidated power after defeating Mark Antony in 31 BCE, Augustus inherited a Roman economy running on a chaotic mix of republican denarii, foreign coins, and emergency issues from the civil wars. He standardized everything. The new Augustan denarius weighed 3.9 grams and contained 97% pure silver. 25 denarii equaled 1 gold aureus. 16 copper asses equaled 1 denarius. The system was clean, predictable, and trusted across 3 continents. This mattered because Rome was not a subsistence economy. By the 1st century CE, Rome operated the ancient world's most sophisticated commercial network. Egyptian grain fed the city of Rome. Spanish silver funded the legions. Syrian glass and Chinese silk flowed through trading posts from Britain to India. All of this moved on the back of the denarius. The denarius worked because everyone trusted it. A merchant in Alexandria knew a denarius spent the same in Londinium. A soldier recruited in Gaul received wages identical to a soldier stationed in Syria. A tax collector in Africa counted the same coins as a tax collector in Asia Minor. This uniformity required iron discipline. Augustus minted coins at state-controlled facilities. He maintained the weight. He maintained the purity. The result was a currency accepted everywhere Rome's legions had marched. The empire's financial needs were enormous. Maintaining 300,000 soldiers across thousands of miles of frontier required staggering cash flows. Building roads, aqueducts, and public buildings required constant expenditure. The grain dole in Rome fed hundreds of thousands of citizens. Provincial administration demanded salaries for thousands of officials. Augustus balanced these demands through conquest. New territories brought plunder, slaves, and tax bases. The treasury filled when legions won. During peacetime, Spain's silver mines at Rio Tinto and Cartagena produced steady output. Egypt's grain surplus generated revenue. Customs duties at ports and borders added more. The system depended on expansion. New provinces funded the administration of old provinces. New plunder paid the bonuses soldiers expected after campaigns. When expansion slowed, the math stopped working. Augustus died in 14 CE. He left his successors a monetary system with a hidden flaw. It required either continuous expansion or ruthless fiscal discipline. His successors had neither. For the next 50 years, the denarius held steady. Tiberius, Caligula, and Claudius maintained Augustan standards. Coins from these reigns show consistent weights and silver content. The system worked. Then Nero took the throne. Nero faced a problem Augustus never solved. What happens when expenses exceed revenue? By 64 CE, Nero had spent lavishly on building projects, games, and his own court. The Great Fire of Rome destroyed 10 of the city's 14 districts. Rebuilding required massive expenditure. Tax revenue fell short. Nero found a solution previous emperors had avoided. He reduced the denarius from 3.9 grams to 3.4 grams. He dropped the silver content from 97% to 93.5%. Each coin now contained 14% less silver than before. The mint's output increased without requiring more silver. Nero paid his bills. He rebuilt Rome. He funded his building projects. The economy continued functioning. From the treasury's perspective, the debasement was invisible profit. Every pound of silver now produced more coins. Every coin still spent at face value. The gap between the silver's intrinsic worth and the coin's purchasing power flowed directly to the imperial treasury. Nero's successors noticed. Debasement worked. It paid for crises without raising taxes. It funded armies without conquering new provinces. It looked like free money. The pattern repeated across the next century. Each emperor faced fiscal pressures. Each emperor discovered debasement. Each debasement solved the immediate crisis while making the next crisis worse. Under Trajan, 998-117 CE, the denarius dropped to 89% silver. Trajan needed funds for his Dacian and Parthian wars. Debasement provided them. Under Marcus Aurelius, 161-180 CE, the denarius fell to 79% silver. The Antonine Plague killed millions. Germanic tribes crossed the Danube. Wars on multiple fronts drained the treasury. Debasement filled the gap. Each reduction was small. Individually, a 5% drop in silver content was barely noticeable. A merchant weighing coins might detect the difference. Most people spent coins without testing them. The system continued functioning, but the reductions compounded. From Augustus to Marcus Aurelius, the denarius lost 20% of its silver content. Prices rose gradually. Wages followed with a lag. The purchasing power of savings eroded invisibly. The critical threshold came under Septimius Severus in 193 CE. He crossed a line no previous emperor had approached. Septimius Severus won the throne through civil war. He understood who put him there, the legions. His deathbed advice to his sons summarized his entire philosophy. Enrich the soldiers, ignore everyone else. Severus raised legionary pay by 50%. He added new legions. He granted soldiers the right to marry during service. He showered the military with bonuses, land grants, and privileges. This cost money Rome did not have. Severus found it in the same place Nero had. He dropped the denarius to 56% silver. The debasement under Severus was not a minor adjustment. It was a structural transformation. For the first time, Roman coins contained more base metal than precious metal. The denarius had become something closer to token money than commodity money. Caracalla, Severus's son, went further. In 215 CE, he introduced the Antoninianus. This new coin was supposedly worth 2 denarii. Its actual silver content was only 1.5 times a single denarius. The gap between face value and metal value widened. Caracalla also extended citizenship to all free inhabitants of the empire. This was not generosity. Citizenship meant tax liability. More citizens meant more revenue. Combined with debasement, Caracalla funded another round of military bonuses. The contemporary historian Cassius Dio documented the motivation explicitly. Caracalla debased the currency to fund military payments without imposing new taxes. The soldiers received their bonuses. The population paid through inflation rather than direct extraction. This created a feedback loop the emperors could not escape. Soldiers demanded higher pay because prices rose. Higher pay required more debasement. More debasement raised prices further. Each cycle required larger debasements to achieve the same effect. The intervals between debasements shortened. Between 193 and 235 CE, the denarius lost nearly half its remaining silver. Under Severus Alexander, it contained roughly 35% silver. The Antoninianus, now the primary currency, contained even less. The soldiers noticed. Pay disputes triggered mutinies. In 235 CE, soldiers murdered Severus Alexander. His replacement, Maximinus Thrax, lasted 3 years before soldiers killed him too. The crisis of the 3rd century had begun. Between 235 and 284 CE, the Roman Empire had at least 26 claimants to the imperial throne. Most died violently. Many reigned for less than a year. Soldiers made and unmade emperors based on promises of payment. Each new emperor needed to pay for loyalty. Each payment required more coins. Each coin required more debasement. Under Gallienus, 253 and 268 CE, the Antoninianus collapsed to 4% silver. These coins were bronze discs dipped in silver wash. The wash wore off with handling. Everyone could see the bronze underneath. The pretense of silver currency had ended. Prices exploded. Egyptian papyri record wheat prices rising from 8 drachmas per artaba in the 1st century to 120,000 drachmas per artaba by the mid-3rd century, a 15,000-fold increase. This was not gradual inflation. This was monetary collapse. The economic infrastructure disintegrated. Long-distance trade depended on stable currency. Merchants sailing from Egypt to Rome needed to know the coins they received would hold value during the voyage home. With prices doubling in months, trade became speculation. Many merchants stopped trading. Shipwreck data from the Mediterranean shows the pattern. Archaeologists have cataloged wrecks across the sea floor. Wreck frequency peaked during the 1st century BCE and 1st century CE. By the 3rd century, wrecks declined dramatically. Fewer ships sailed because fewer merchants risked the journey. Pottery distribution tells the same story. African red slip ware dominated Mediterranean markets during the 1st and 2nd centuries. Production facilities exported across the empire. By the 3rd century, distribution contracted. Production continued, but the market had fragmented. Moving goods across provincial boundaries no longer made economic sense. Tax collection broke down. Roman taxes had been calculated and collected in coin. When coins became worthless, the system failed. The government shifted to the annona, taxes paid in kind. Farmers delivered grain directly, craftsmen delivered goods directly. The monetized economy retreated to barter. This destroyed administrative capacity. A government collecting taxes in grain faces different logistics than a government collecting taxes in coin. Grain rots. Grain requires transportation. Grain storage demands infrastructure. Moving from money taxes to grain taxes meant building an entirely new extraction apparatus, while the old one crumbled. The legions fragmented. Soldiers paid in worthless coins demanded payment in goods. Commanders who controlled productive regions could pay their troops. Commanders who didn't faced mutiny. The empire broke into competing segments, each controlling enough agricultural land to feed its own army. Between 260 and 274 CE, the empire split into 3 parts. The Gallic Empire controlled the western provinces. The Palmyrene Empire controlled the east. The central Italian government controlled only a fraction of the former whole. Aurelian reunified the empire by 274 CE. He did so through military force. He could not reunify the economy. The damage was structural. Diocletian took power in 284 CE. He inherited an empire running on barter, a military demanding goods instead of coins, and a population that had lost all trust in imperial currency. He attempted the most comprehensive economic reform in Roman history. It failed completely. The edict on maximum prices of 301 CE survives in fragments from over 30 locations across the former empire. Stone inscriptions record the government's attempt to freeze prices by law. The document lists maximum prices for more than 200 goods and services. The edict's preamble admits the problem in language that reads like a government confession. The text denounces unlimited and frenzied avarice driving prices beyond reason. It describes merchants charging not 4 or 8-fold the old prices, but such prices as human speech cannot describe. The government blamed greed. The government had caused inflation through 250 years of debasement. The edict prescribed death for violations. Merchants who charged above maximum prices faced execution. Merchants who hoarded goods faced execution. Buyers who paid above maximum prices faced execution. Enforcement proved impossible. Merchants stopped selling rather than sell at controlled prices and take losses. Goods disappeared from markets. The edict collapsed within months. Lactantius, a Christian writer who lived through these events, documented the failure. Markets emptied. Bloodshed followed enforcement attempts. The government withdrew the edict rather than continue killing merchants while accomplishing nothing. The Egyptian papyri confirm this timeline. Wage and price records from the Oxyrhynchus and Michigan collections show prices continuing to rise after 301 CE. Diocletian's death penalty stopped nothing. Diocletian's other reforms had more lasting effect. He restructured taxation entirely around the annona. He tied peasants to the land through laws that evolved into medieval serfdom. He divided the empire into smaller provinces to prevent governors from accumulating too much power. He multiplied the bureaucracy to maintain control. These reforms stabilized the empire. They did so by abandoning the monetary economy altogether. Diocletian's Rome was not Augustus's Rome. It was a command economy where government extracted goods directly and distributed them to armies and officials without market intermediation. The archaeological record confirms this transformation. Villa sites across the Western Empire show abandonment during the 3rd and 4th centuries. Urban populations declined. Mining output from Spanish silver mines fell to a fraction of earlier levels. The economic machinery that had supported 60 million people contracted. Some regions stabilized. The Eastern Empire maintained more urban centers and more commercial activity. Constantinople, founded by Constantine in 330 CE, became the new economic center. The East would survive another 1,000 years. The West did not stabilize. Each generation controlled less territory, collected less revenue, and maintained fewer soldiers. The last emperor of the Western line, Romulus Augustus, was deposed in 476 CE. By then, the deposition was a formality. The Western Empire had been economically dead for 2 centuries. Your government tells you the economy is fine. The Roman government said the same thing while minting bronze coins with silver wash. The parallels between Roman debasement and modern monetary expansion are not perfect. They are instructive. Rome debased physical commodity money. The United States creates electronic fiat money. Rome's coins had intrinsic metal value. Dollars have no intrinsic value. Rome's economy depended on mining output. Modern economies depend on central bank decisions. These differences matter. They do not eliminate the pattern. The Federal Reserve balance sheet expanded from $900 billion in 2008 to $9 trillion by 2022. This represented a tenfold increase in the monetary base. The mechanism was different from Roman debasement. The direction was identical, more monetary units chasing the same goods and services. Roman emperors debased currency to pay soldiers. Modern governments expand money supply to fund deficits. Roman citizens watch their savings erode. Modern citizens watch purchasing power decline. Roman merchants raised prices to compensate. Modern businesses do the same. The 2021-2023 inflation surge demonstrated how monetary expansion translates into price increases. Consumer prices rose 9.1% year over year by June 2022. Grocery prices increased 13.5%. Energy prices increased 41.6%. Wages rose, but more slowly than prices. Real incomes fell. This echoes the Roman pattern exactly. Nominal wages in Egypt rose during the 3rd century. Real wages collapsed. Workers earned more drachmas each year. They could afford less wheat. The numbers went up while living standards went down. Modern economists debate whether current monetary policy resembles Roman debasement. Proponents of modern monetary theory argue that governments with sovereign currencies face different constraints. They point out that fiat money operates differently than commodity money. They note that the United States controls the world's reserve currency. Rome controlled the ancient world's reserve currency. The denarius circulated from Scotland to India. Foreign kings hoarded denarii. Merchants trusted Roman coins for centuries. This did not prevent collapse. It delayed collapse while making the eventual collapse more catastrophic. The dollar's reserve currency status provides advantages Rome also enjoyed. Foreign demand for dollars allows the United States to run trade deficits other countries could not sustain. This is not permanent. It depends on continued confidence in dollar stability. Roman confidence eroded gradually, then collapsed suddenly. For decades, debasement worked. Each reduction in silver content produced revenue without immediate consequences. Merchants adjusted slowly. Prices rose gradually. The system appeared stable. The transition to crisis happened faster than anyone expected. Once confidence broke, it broke completely. Merchants stopped accepting coins. Soldiers demanded goods. Trade networks collapsed. The feedback loop accelerated until the economy hit bottom. Modern warning signs mirror Roman patterns. The shift from monetary to in-kind payments has not occurred, but the government's share of economic activity has expanded. Social Security, Medicare, and other transfer programs now constitute a larger share of household income than at any point in American history. This resembles the Roman annona, direct government distribution replacing market transactions. Diocletian's edict on maximum prices offers lessons for modern price control debates. Rent control produces housing shortages. Price gouging laws produce empty shelves during emergencies. The mechanism is identical to what Lactantius documented. Sellers stop selling rather than sell at losses. The death penalty could not make price controls work in 301 CE. Modern enforcement mechanisms are milder. They are not more effective. Markets route around price controls because participants respond to incentives, not commands. The Roman case also illuminates debates about government intervention. Diocletian responded to monetary collapse with comprehensive control, fixed prices, labor tied to occupations, peasants tied to land, massive bureaucratic expansion. These controls prevented immediate disintegration. They also prevented recovery. The economy stabilized at a lower level of activity. Modern governments face similar choices during crises. Emergency measures can prevent immediate collapse. They can also prevent adaptation. The Roman solution was stasis, freeze everything in place and prevent change. The result was an economy that could not grow, could not innovate, and could not support the population it once had. Your paycheck arrives in dollars. Your savings account holds dollars. Your retirement funds are denominated in dollars. Every financial plan you make assumes dollar stability. Roman citizens made the same assumption about the denarius. For centuries, the assumption held, then it didn't. The transition from holding to didn't erased generations of accumulated wealth. You cannot control monetary policy. You cannot vote on Federal Reserve decisions. You cannot prevent your government from running deficits. You can understand the pattern. You can recognize that monetary expansion has consequences. You can observe that those consequences appear with a lag, sometimes a long lag, before arriving all at once. The Roman coins and museum cases tell this story in metal. Scientists have measured the silver content decline across 300 years. The numbers are precise. The pattern is clear. The outcome is documented. Emperors believed they had found a way to fund unlimited spending without consequence. They were wrong. The physical evidence of their error fills numismatic collections worldwide. Modern monetary authorities believe they have found a way to fund unlimited spending without consequence. They point to differences between commodity money and fiat money. They point to central bank tools unavailable to Roman emperors. They point to economic theories that predict different outcomes. They may be right. Rome may be a false analogy. Fiat currency may operate under genuinely different rules, or the pattern may repeat. Monetary expansion may work until it doesn't. Confidence may hold until it breaks. Gradual decline may precede sudden collapse. The Roman evidence suggests caution. 250 years of documented debasement, thousands of analyzed coins, price records from Egyptian papyri, government inscriptions admitting failure, archaeological evidence of economic contraction. The coins don't lie. They contain exactly as much silver as metallurgical analysis reports. They tell the story of an empire that inflated its way to destruction. Whether that story describes the past or predicts the future depends on decisions being made right now. Decisions you cannot control. Decisions that will determine whether your savings buy what you expect in 20 years. The Roman citizens of 100 CE trusted their currency. Their great-grandchildren watched it become worthless. The interval between stability and collapse was shorter than one family's memory. History does not repeat, but it rhymes. The rhyme between Roman denarii and modern dollars grows more audible each year. The metallurgical evidence from Rome's coins offers a warning. Whether anyone heeds it remains to be seen. The coins don't lie. The question is whether anyone listens.